So children, we saw how the conservatists, they tried to consolidate their power, and they established again the monarchy system and gave them the name of new conservatism. But meanwhile, the liberals were also working in that direction, and they gradually started associating themselves with revolutionaries in different regions of Europe, largely related to Italian and German states, who belonged to the provinces of Ottoman Empire. And these revolutionaries, they started spreading a sense of belongingness, which to which the middle class people were highly attracted. They were professors, school teachers, clerks, and members of different other commercial groups. So this first upheaval of liberalism or nationalism was again brought up in France in the year 1830, July of 1830. So the Bourbon dynasty, which was restored with the establishment of this constitutional monarchy, with Louis Philippe as its head, were overthrown by the were overthrown by these liberal nationalists, and this led towards again revolutionary changes that was being brought up by the people of France, that started with the end of 1815, when Napoleon Bonaparte was defeated. So that is, in that reference, there is a common saying that has come up, and it has been given by Duke Metternich, who states that when France sneezes, rest of the Europe, it catches cold. This saying is very important because very a time this quote is being given, and the students are asked to explain it, elaborate it. So in order to answer this statement, the justification to this statement is this: that when revolution started in France in the year 1789, French Revolution started, the rest of the world also caught the word of liberal, and they started fighting for their own freedom. In the same manner, when there was again a kind of liberal revolution that engulfed France, the same thing spread to different parts of Europe. So in this reference, there is a mention of a Greek war of independence, and that started in the year 1821. Greek was earlier a part of this Ottoman Empire since 5th century, and the growth of this revolutionary nationalism in Europe, it sparked off a vibrant chord in Greek also, and they started fighting for their independence, and this began from 1821. So there were various nationalist people who started supporting the Greek people, and poets also, and other people who believed in using culture and other kind of emotional things in order to motivate the people or develop a sense of nationalism among them. They started coming up, and they started writing different kinds of poets that was associated with nationalism. So there is a mention of Lord Byron, who organized funds, and he went on to have a war also with people who were opposing the freedom of the Greek people. But later on, he died with fever in the year 1824. And finally, it was with the Treaty of Constantinople that in the year 1832 that Greek was recognized as an independent nation. So here again we are talking about age of revolution, in which again people were striving hard and fighting back for the development of a nation state. Now in the development of the nation state, there is an important element, and that important element is related with the romantic imagination and the national feeling. When we talk about this romantic imagination, what does it mean? It means that it is not only through war that people can get independence. It is also through culture that people can motivate the citizens of the country to develop a feeling of nationalism, and take initiative to fight for the independence of their country. So here, this is what we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about romanticism, the concept of romanticism that developed, which was largely associated with the cultural movement. So here there was a criticism of the glorification of science and reason, and more emphasis was given on emotion, intuition, and mystical feeling, because people could very much associate themselves with it. This helped in the development of a collective heritage identity. People could form a group which developed a sense of commonness, and motivated people to come under the same shed and talk about the same problems and form programs that could be initiated so that they could group themselves together and fight for the independence of their country. So there was another important thing. It was referred to as German culture, that talked about Das Volk and Volksgeist. These two words are important. Das Volk means common people, and these common people were motivated through culture to develop a nation spirit that was called as Volksgeist. So this nation spirit developed a collective identity, again I am repeating, which helped in developing a feeling of nationalism and motivated them to fight for the independence of their country. Then another important point is a mention of vernacular language. When we are talking about vernacular language, it refers to the local language, and this local language, the collection of local language, was not just to develop or recover that ancient national spirit, but it was also to carry a modern nationalist message that we had such glorious past. And this also helped people to associate themselves with their past and develop a sense of pride and belongingness. There is a mention of Karol Karpiński, and he was a person from Poland, and he celebrated his national struggle by developing operas and music, and his and folk dances. The very famous folk dances that is mentioned in your book refers to Mazurka and Polonaise. So they were folk dances that symbolized nationality. So these ways, through these ways, people were able to come and highlight their culture and make people associate themselves with it and have a sense of pride. Another important and probably the last point is the language. So every country has its own language, and it plays an important role in developing nationalist sentiments. There is a mention of a fight or a tussle between Russia and Poland. So Poland was under the subjugation of Russia, and Polish people were forced to learn Russian languages in the school also. So when these kind of national sentiments were coming up, then the members of the Poland people, they started using this language as a weapon for national resistance, and they started gathering in churches and other religious places to give different kind of religious instructions. And this resulted into large number of priests and bishops who were being forced into jail by the Russian people. But then the use of Polish language, it started to be seen as a symbol of struggle against this Russian dominance. So all these factors that we have talked about can be grouped under a common heading as Romanticism, which was taken up by the people at that particular time to fight for their national identity. There is also a mention about Grimm brothers in your book, and these they were the brothers from Germany, and they were twin brothers, and what they did was that they roamed into cities and towns, and they started collecting stories, old stories from different people residing in different parts of the country, that is village and other towns, and they started writing down these fairy tales which they heard from people, and then finally they compiled them into a book and started selling them as collection of tales. And it also became they also became an active participant in liberal politics, especially in reference to the movement of press, because they wanted that press should be given the freedom to express their opinion and their mindset. So that probably would also help in developing the feeling of nationalism. So this is how the role of Romanticism literature took initiative in the development of nationalism. Now moving down, we are going to take into consideration the impact of all these changes onto the economy. So when we're going to talk about economy, it talks about what kind of employment was available to the people at that time, whether they faced a problem related to the jobs, and how the industrialization process that began in England earlier had an impact on the people. So when we talk about hunger, hardship, and different kind of popular revolt that started in the year 1830s, so it brought lots of economic hardships in Europe. So at that time, what happened? People in Europe, they started moving from the villages to the towns in order to search for jobs. And this became all the more difficult because of industrialization. The people in the villages, they were not able to get jobs or demand for their products because of competition that was created because of industrialization that had already happened in England. So lot many textile and handmade industries that existed in Europe and its villages, they started receding backward because of lack of demand for their products. Moreover, there was a bad harvest also that led towards the rise in the prices of food grains. So all these got aggravated by the year 1848. So in that situation, what happened? The monarch that got the power to bring lots of changes in France, that is Louis Philippe, that we have talked of, with the establishment of constitutional monarchy. He also fled away because he was not able to answer to the people of France. So that led towards the establishment of a republican government in France. And this republican government, it proclaimed a national assembly. Then it also gave adult suffrage to the people of France, that is all males above 21 years of age, they will be given the right to vote. And then it started giving right to work, because that was the hardship that people of France started to face because of industrialization factor that had already started in England. Now there is a mention of an important story here that is related to the weavers of Silesia, or Silesian village weavers. Now this story talks about that there were around 18,000 inhabitants in this village, and they were into this cotton weaving industry. And these weavers, they were facing lot many problems. Why? Because the contractors, they started demanding goods at reduced prices. So these weavers, they emerged from their houses and they started demanding higher wages for their products, at least to meet the requirement of the cost of production. So in that reference, they were not getting a positive reproach from the contractors. So they what started doing, they started organizing a group, and they started looting the houses and smashing the windows and other residential places of the contractors. So this forced the contractor to flee the village and go into the city and start asking for shelter from the government. But the government refused to give the shelter, so he has to come back to the village. He organized an army, and there was a kind of a war between the contractor and the villagers that led to death and destruction. So you can see how this hardship that was being faced by the people of France led towards a total social upheaval, a social reproach, a social conflict into the society, which brought discontentment and dissatisfaction to the people of France. Moreover, this problem further got grimmer because the monarch, he fled because he could not find solution to the problems of the villagers. So this all started creating lot many problems, and that further motivated these liberals to come back again. So we talked about that revolution which was initiated by the liberal people, and that liberal people, they started regaining grounds again, and they started coming back, and they started motivating the middle class people. They had already established the republican government, which promised people to give the right to vote, which promised people to give the right to work. So this all further paved the way in Europe for the development of independent nation states, which did not exist at that time in Germany, Italy, Poland, and different other Austro-Hungarian empire. So men and women belonging to different middle classes, they started joining themselves in a group, and they started demanding for the establishment of a constitution, and they started proclaiming the need and importance of this national unification. So then there is a mention, or then there came the concept of how German people, they started initiating to establish themselves as an independent nation. So in that reference, middle class people and professionals of German, they started making themselves, forming themselves into group, and they met together into a Frankfurt Parliament at St. Paul. There they convened this General Assembly, and they elected representatives. There were 831 elected representatives of German. They started moving towards this Frankfurt Parliament at St. Paul, and so that they could take their places. So they then drafted a constitution for a German nation, which needs to be headed by the monarchy, who was subject to the parliament. So when at that time the monarch was Friedrich Wilhelm IV. He was a king of Prussia. So remember that how Otto von Bismarck, he has brought that changes. So this person, Friedrich Wilhelm IV, he did not agree to it, and then Friedrich Wilhelm IV, he did not agree to it, and then he joined with the monarchy, and there was a fight between the liberal people and the monarchy, and that consequently the liberals, they lost their support, and in the end it was the troops that was called in, and the assembly was forced to disband. So this is a first event marked in the history where the liberals, they tried to establish a republican government, a government which is going to strive for the formation of an independent nation, but which was brought down by the monarchy. And hence this Frankfurt Parliament is signified in history as a place where there was a failure of liberal nationalists and a victory to monarchy. So this Frankfurt Parliament is very much important in that reference. But then this, whatever happened in Frankfurt Parliament, it paved the way for the people across the nation to get up, arise and strive to fight for the development of an independent nation. So now we are going to start that how independent nations came into being. It was Germany and Italy, and then we will moving on to United Kingdom. So first we will be taking up with Germany, and how in Germany the nationalist sentiment was mobilized, the monarchy was suppressed. So what happened that after this 1848, this nationalism in Europe, it moved away from its association with democracy, and then started to develop that nationalist sentiments, which was very much mobilized by the people of German. So this is observed in the process that how Germany and Italy, they gradually came to be united. So nationalist feelings, it was very much widespread in Germany, and then in the year 1848 it tried to unite different regions of Germany with the objective of the development of a nation state which has to be governed by the elected parliament. So they started to move for a nation building, and but this was repressed by this combined forces of monarchy that and the Junkers, the peasants who were under this monarchy, that is, they were from Prussia. So then what happened, these Junkers, Prussian, they took over the leadership of the movement for this national unification, and their chief minister was Otto von Bismarck, and he was the architect in this process, and he carried out for the unification of the Germany. He carried out wars with Austria, Denmark and France, and that ended in Prussian victory, and which was completed in the year 1871 with the process of unification of Germany. And then this Prussian king William I, he was proclaimed as the emperor of the Germany, which was held at Versailles. So this is how Germany, with the help of Prussia, it strived to eliminate monarchy and led towards the unification of Germany as a nation under the leadership of Otto von Bismarck. Now then what happened in the morning of 18th of January, that is 1871, there were assembly that got formed, and the princes of the German states and important Prussian leaders, including this chief minister Otto von Bismarck, and they proclaimed a new German emperor, and he was Kaiser William I. So this nation building process of Germany, it started, and it was largely the dominance of Prussia, which led towards the establishment of a nation state. And when we talk about establishment of a nation state, it refers to the modernization of the country, it refers to the development of the banking system, legal and judicial system in the country, and every policy that is going to happen, which is going to be for the betterment of the nation. Now we are going to talk about that how this process of unification started in Italy. Now, Italy was a country which was divided into 7 states, and rest of the states, they were under the control of different empires. Some were under this Habsburg Empire, some were under the control of Pope, some were being ruled by this Bourbon dynasty. But there was only one province, that is Sardana-Piedmont, which was ruled by the Italian princely states, and their king was Emmanuel. So this Emmanuel II. So when Italy started to strive for the development of its own nation, then it had to motivate the people, and that motivation was initiated under the leadership of Giuseppe Mazzini. It started in the year 1830. And the chief minister Cavour, he entered into various diplomatic alliance with France, and then he defeated Austria, and then all the princely states of this Italy, it was combined together, and Italy was finally unified. And in the year 1861, Victor Emmanuel, he was proclaimed as the king of the unified Italy. So this is how there was a fight within the country with the people and the monarchy that led towards the establishment of Italian government, and those small provinces which were ruled by different princely states that were dismantled, and finally a government or a single government under the leadership of Emmanuel II was established, and consequently leading to the unification of Italy. Now we are going to talk about that how Britain got unified and became a country called United Kingdom. Now when we talk about Britain, Britain was a country with 4 different ethnic groups. There were English people, there were Welsh people, Scottish and Irish people. And English people, they were very much dominant, and they were very much also proud of their culture, and they gradually seized power from the monarchy in the year 1688, because England was also because there were different ethnic groups, and these different ethnic groups, they were ruled by a monarch or a king. So English people, they seized power from the monarchy in the year 1688, and they formed England. And then they started expanding their power. They started expanding their control over different other ethnic groups. So first control they started to have was on the Scottish people, and with the Act of Union in the year 1707, they subjugated Scotland under their power, and that led towards the formation of United Kingdom. Then they moved towards this Irish people. And this Irish people, they also experienced the same problem, that they were very much divided into Catholics and the Protestants. So what English people did, that they played game. They started favoring the Protestants and motivated Protestants to subjugate or bring a Catholic under their control. So Catholics, they revolted against this kind of dominance that was coming up. There was a revolt that was led by Tony Wolfe Tone. So, and that this revolt, it was suppressed, and that led towards the unification of Irish with England and Scotland in the year 1798. So this finally Ireland was forcibly incorporated in the United Kingdom in the year 1801. And that led towards the establishment of a single individual nation, that was United Kingdom. There was a development of British nation with British flag called as Union Jack, and there was this British anthem, that is God Save Our Noble King, and the language was English. So this way, the 4 different ethnic groups that existed earlier in Britain, they gradually overpowered themselves with their growth and development and tried to seize control over different other ethnic groups that existed in Britain, and finally led towards the unification of England and development of a nation. So this is how this concept of nationalism, it covered the whole of Europe and motivated people belonging to different ethnic groups or existing under different dynastic rule to get up, form a group and strive to fight for the development of their nation. Now moving on to the next part, we will be talking about how these nations were visualized, and these nations were visualized as in the form of personification, and this personification of the nation was done in order to give a face to a nation. So there was a female figurines that was adopted as an allegory for a nation. If we talk about France, it was a female figurine was called as Mariana, and she was depicted wearing red cap, tricolor and cockade. And for Germany, it was Germania, and she was depicted wearing crown of oak leaves, which stands for heroism. And these female figurines or allegories that we have talked about, they were invented by different artists in the 19th century to represent a nation. So these figurines, they represented or portrayed an idea related to liberty, justice, and the formation of republic. And these ideas were represented, as we have discussed, through specific objects or symbols. So this also was a format of visualizing a nation so that people could develop a kind of emotional attachment to their specific nation because they are visualizing that particular nation in a figure. So all these things were a step towards the development of a nation or a feeling of nationalism. Now we are going to talk about the last part of this chapter, that is related to nationalism and imperialism. First of all, let us discuss how this imperialism is different from nationalism. When we are talking about nationalism, we are talking about development of a feeling which is related because of having a common identity, common culture, common language, and hence a sense of belongingness generates a feeling of nationalism. But when we have developed our nation, we are growing and we are prospering, we want to do certain other things which is going to make our nation more stronger. And one of an important element that people perceive or think that makes their nation strong is to annex kingdom, to annex territory. So that is something which we all have seen in the history that has happened, that when a king is very strong, he gathers his forces, he gathers his people, he is economically, financially, politically sound, and he starts to move out of his country and expand the boundary of his nation. So that is known as imperialism. When we are annexing somebody else's land or kingdom and forcing those people to join my country or my kingdom and start living by the name of my country, that is known as imperialism. So this nationalism was now turning into imperialism, and one of the reason for the turning of nationalism into imperialism was the tension in Europe in the year 1871 that existed in Balkan region. Now what was this Balkans or Balkan region? Balkan region was a region which had lots of ethnic variation, and there was variation in its relief features also. And these Balkan regions, they were under the control of different Ottoman empires, and when this concept of nationalism was spreading into different parts of the world, this Balkan region was not untouched from it. It also started thinking about making their own empire, an independent nation, and they wanted to get freedom from the clutches of this Ottoman empire. So they started fighting for their independence. So there were lots of toughs and tussles that started brewing within this ethnic region, and that actually made people desirable to go and get control over these Balkan regions. So that created lots of wars and infights into this particular time in Europe. So the Balkans people, they wanted to have their own independence, but the other countries, they wanted to have capture over these Balkan regions, and these led to lot many rivalries in Russia, Germany, England, Austro-Hungarian countries, etc., who were keen to conquer and have control over the Balkan people. So because of this kind of infighting and toughs and tussle, it finally led to this World War. So that started in the year 1914. So we all knew how, when it was, how we all know now how this nationalism, when it was turned into this imperialism, it started World War. And we all know that what happened in World War, how people fought, and finally people started fighting as a nation. So already the nation states have developed, and people started fighting for the respect for the identity of their nation. The advantage of this fight was this, that there were other countries in the world who were colony to these so-called nation states that had developed in Europe. So these colonies also started thinking at that particular time about the development of their individual identity, and India was one such country. India also liked this feeling of being an independent nation, and it saw how people across the world, they are fighting for the development of their independent nation, for the respect of their national identity. So this fight of nationalism, which turned into imperialism, had an added advantage to those countries which were colony to these so-called developed European nations, and it paved the way for the fight of their independence. So how India fought for its independence, how this feeling of nationalism arose in our country, will be the subject matter of our next chapter. Thank you.